Howdy everyone! Today I'm looking at something super interesting, my first ever review of a Lensbaby lens, their new 5.8mm f3.5 circular fisheye. It came out earlier this year, but somehow it slipped under my radar and I only heard about it a few weeks ago. Naturally, I bought one immediately to test out, especially as it's quite a budget item, costing only about £200 or $300 US. A circular fisheye image is, well, this basically. A picture paints 1,000 words, especially in this case. This particular lens has an amazingly wide angle of 185 degrees, so the lens can actually see very slightly behind you. Interestingly, Lensbaby decided to polish the inside body of this lens so that you get a neat reflection surrounding your circular image. If you don't like that, it's easy just to crop it out in editing, like this. This lens is completely manual. It doesn't communicate with your camera electronically at all. No aperture information, no autofocus, nothing. It fits full frame and APS-C cameras. On an APS-C camera, a Canon one anyway, the edges of the circular fisheye image touch the top and bottom of your image frame. So you are getting the full circular fisheye image here. However, the top and bottom of the reflective edge is cut off. APS-C camera owners also have a slight problem with video work. The camera's 16:9 aspect ratio for video footage cuts off the top and bottom of the circular fisheye image itself. What a shame. However, you can get around this by shooting in 640p mode, which gives you a 4:3 aspect ratio, which will thereby include the entire circular image. However, as you can see here, you're only shooting in 640p, which is rather a low resolution. But let's see the video footage on a full frame camera, in this case a Canon 6D. On a full frame camera with its larger sensor, your circular image is kind of bunched into the middle of the picture frame, so you might want to crop your picture a bit. However, you can get complete coverage in your video footage on full frame, including the reflective edges at 1080p resolution. So video makers, take note of all that information. Let's take a look at the lens's build quality now. It's quite a small piece of kit with manual focus and manual aperture control, but it feels quite solid. There's actually a surprising amount of metal in this lens's construction. Oddly enough though, despite that, the lens has a plastic mount to attach to the camera. The lens comes with a nice front cap that fits very snugly over the front element. The manual aperture ring is not well made. It turns very loosely with quite soft clicks at each f-stop. It's very easy to accidentally turn the ring past your desired aperture. The manual focus ring is very nice and smooth to turn, although it has some quirks. As you can see here, there's only a tiny focus path for you to focus between 30 centimeters and infinity. However, the rest of the focus path down to 1 centimeter is absolutely huge. Also, personally I don't think it's really helpful to be marking the focus ring with 0.02 and 0.01 meters. It would be a lot easier to give measurements in centimeters at that close range, but I suppose I'm kind of nitpicking. Like I said, this is a fully manual lens with no autofocus or camera aperture control. It has some quirks in its build quality, but overall it's nicely made and easy to use. Let's look at picture quality. The lens feels most at home on an APS-C camera, so that's where we'll start with my 20 megapixel Canon 70D. At f3.5 the lens is a little soft in the middle of the image, but the picture is usable. In the corners of the image we see a much softer picture with some rather prominent green and pink chromatic aberration on contrasting edges. Not good, really. However, stop the aperture down to f5.6 for a good improvement in sharpness and brightness, and decently sharp picture quality in the middle of the image. At f8 the lens is very sharp in the middle, and the edges are okay, although we're still seeing lots of chromatic aberration. When you stop down to f11, the corners are at their sharpest, still not looking fantastic, but at least good enough. So overall, the Lensbaby 5.8mm can be quite sharp in the middle of your image when you stop down to f5.6, but you have to stop down even more for good image quality in the corners, and there's no escaping those strong chromatic aberrations. Alright, let's take a look at the performance on a full frame camera, my 20 megapixel Canon 6D. As you can see, the image is pretty small, but there's still enough there to make the lens usable. At f3.5 the lens is averagely sharp in the middle of your image, and this time the image quality in your corners is not quite so bad. However, we have had to crop quite a lot, so we're not exactly getting a high resolution image here. At f5.6 we see a lot more sharpness across the image frame. Stop down to f11 for best image quality. Overall, while you don't really get a very big picture on full frame, the picture quality itself is good enough. This lens can focus down to 1 centimeter. That's astonishingly close for any camera lens, quite amazing really. Here it is against my close-up test subject, and here's the picture I got. At f3.5 there's a sweet spot of sharpness in the center of the image, although anything outside of the center shows quite a lot of chromatic aberration. Stop down to f5.6 for a slightly nicer picture. It's not the best image quality, but the pictures themselves are suitably dramatic. For example, here's a circuit board full of tiny resistors close up. Let's see how the lens performs against bright lights. The lens does a very good job here, not really showing any flaring or loss in contrast. We're only being dazzled here by the pretty reflective edges. Overall, this lens is a ton of fun. It's very Lensbaby. It's creative, easy to use, and very good value for money. I actually really like the reflective ring you get around its circular image, and I can think of loads of interesting projects a lens like this could be used for. This isn't the only circular fisheye lens on the market, mind you, and it's not really the sharpest lens in the world either. But it's good value for money, and for sheer entertainment value, this lens kicks some major booty, and I can happily recommend it to anyone who wants to see life in a new perspective.